Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm here with my very good friend Matlock, and we are basically going to be going through for you a brand new FL install for new FL users, an absolute basic beginner's guide basically. Matlock is a really good friend of mine. I've known you for what, 20 years now? No, not quite, about 15, 16 years. He actually did really well with a track which came out, which made an ASOT top 100 for the year, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
It's Deep Psychosis, so in the Daniel Candy remix. What year was that? I've forgotten what year
2000,
that was.
2008.
Oh, that was a long time ago. I think you're due another one.
Was.
Due
a remix.
Definitely due, yeah, do a 2021 version. Anyway, so yeah, we're just going to go through some real quick FL basic bits for brand new beginners. And hopefully it will get you and my good friend Matt onto FL and churning out some bangers before you know it. So basically all that's been happened so far is Matt has installed it. The installs worked fine. So first things first, we're going to go through a couple of the basics. First things first, let's edit your ribbon or toolbar, because I know you mentioned that. Because I know there's a lot of junk at the top of the screen you don't necessarily want. So if you go to any kind of empty space in the ribbon and right click it and then press edit. Empty space. Oh yeah, edit will do, yeah. Yep, that one there. Okay, now basically what it's done is this kind of shows you all the options that are there and all the options that aren't. So if you don't want it, then you kind of just drag it from the top back to the bottom and it will remove it. So I would suggest all of the stuff on the kind of top row, on the right, and that as well. Yeah, literally everything on the top row that's not about performance or BPM, just drag it down, just drag it anywhere and it'll just go. Right, in my opinion, you don't need none of that stuff. You only need the first 5 on the bottom row, but the rest of the buttons, in my opinion, you can kind of do away with. If you're not planning on doing anything, you know, really funky or any live recording, then you can just remove everything else, and it kind of makes space. So yeah, you can move that one down. And then when you're done with that, in the bottom right hand corner there's just kind of like a little X, which is being covered by my face at the moment. You just click that X and then that will kind of close the edit option. So there you go, nice clean toolbar for you. Okay, moving on now to what people really want to see. So on the left hand side you have your browser. We're not going to go into that right now. We're going to start off with your channel rack. The default FL will give you 4 sounds: a kick, a clap, a hi-hat and a snare. So I'm assuming that the first thing you're going to want to do is lay in a beat. So if you could just put in a 4 to the floor kick beat like that, and press play for it so we can hear that. There you go, brilliant, amazing, techno banger, mate, top of Beatport charts. Now obviously you're going to want to get more detailed into that. So if you literally just right click the 808 kick and then hit piano roll, that will basically take the MIDI pattern you put in and it will put it into the piano roll. So if you scroll up for me, there you go, there's your MIDI. So you can drag, you can copy. It uses the same Windows commands, Control C, Control V, to make more intricate MIDI patterns. So if you hit hold Control and zoom in using your mouse, it will zoom in a bit for you. And now you're going to want to kind of like lengthen those notes as they're on kicks, I assume. There you go. So the snap is automatically turned on. If you want to turn off, oh, sorry, that's my screen. If you want to turn off the snap, you can do so using, you see the little magnet option near the top left. That's the one. Click that and it kind of tells you if you want to snap none to 6 beat, quarter beat, third beat, you know, depending on what kind of beat you want. But I would always go with 1 to 4 step. Personally, I think that's just a nice easy one. It gives you a certain amount of control, but it also snaps as well. And then you've got next to that on the top row, you've got your toolbar. So if you go a bit to the right, you can click the paintbrush. That one, yep. And now that will let you kind of just paint MIDI in, and you can then drag it as well. So just go paint a few notes. And it's probably what you need a VST for instead of kick drums, but you get the idea. So you can if you hit control and drag left click, you can select more than one note. and then you can just move them around. They won't shift within themselves. They'll stay exactly as they were. If you want a really highly pitched hard style kick there. And also the same goes for, once you've selected a bunch of notes, you can also drag them, make them longer, make them shorter. It will affect all of the notes at the same time.
And then how do you get back out of those selected 4?
Oh, just click anywhere else on the piano roll. But then obviously creates a note, so just delete that note. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
At least that's the way I do it. Right, so that's how you put in MIDI notes into a channel. Now, if you did have some MIDI you wanted to import, I'm just going to really quickly go through how you do that. So if you see the top left of the piano roll, the one you just created, there's a little arrow. Click that. Go to File, and then you can import MIDI file there. So if you have any, like if you want to remix, like I don't know, Tiesto's Adagio for strings or something, that's how you would import MIDI, and it would basically, oh, you've got some. Okay, go on, chuck a MIDI in there. Club Zone.
So
just double click it, yeah, and it will, but it will overwrite whatever was in there, and it will just kind of dump the MIDI in. Is that Rui da Silva? Oh no,
I
thought it was until the end. The end says no. Okay, you can stop now. Right. So that's just really quickly how you would do that. Obviously, you can clone. Let's just say you wanted to double up 2 instruments playing the same melody. If you right click where it says 808 kick. Oh, I mean on the channel, right? Yeah. And then hit clone. It will then clone that sound, whether that's an instrument or a sample. It will clone it for you. Or that you can also right click and delete it as well if you don't want that. So there's a delete there. Okay, brilliant. Really, really, really easy. The next thing we're going to look at is the mixer track. So let's just say you've got your sound. In this case, it's our kick. At the moment, you see the numbers on the channel racks. It says 1, 2, 3, 4. Those correspond to the channel in the mixer track that those sounds are basically sending to. So if you hit the mixer track icon, which is the 4th one along on the top of your bar, you know the 5 that we saved? Keep going. Yep, the 4th one along, that's the one. Click that. Now here is your mixer track. So if you press play, you'll see channel 1 will make a noise. And obviously channel 1 and everything sends to the master in the end eventually. So you've got, that's basically how you do that, how you know where that sound is sending to. If you want to change the channel, all you do is you click and drag on the number. And it will basically send it to a completely different mixer track. Next thing we're going to go over is the playlist. So this is when you write your MIDIs, when you're writing your beautiful breakdowns and your epic riffs. And this is kind of where you can find them. So if you see the playlist arrangement where it says pattern 1, so if you now drag that into the arrangement platform, okay, now this works pretty much the same as the MIDIs. So you can Control C, Control V. If you select them, you can move them around. If you just left click, you can paste, because again it's got the paste. Sorry, the paintbrush thing. So now what's going on here is yours. If you zoom in for me, so it's again Control and scroll in. So as you can see, your MIDI pattern. I know you've posted 2. There's 2 MIDI patterns there. Delete one. Press right click over one. There we go. That's what happened. That's what happened. You had 2.
Sneaky.
Sneaky. So something really cool here. If you kind of double click you see the black bar at the top. If you double click that and drag it to 5. That one, double click from 1 to 5 and just kind of drag from 1 to 5 from the very start, basically. Right. From the very start, double click to 1 to 5. Okay, now this will basically loop this section. So if you're kind of working on getting like 2 sounds working together, it's best to kind of just loop it, and while you're working on your EQs and your reverbs and delays and all that kind of stuff. So if you press play, it just goes back to the beginning because it's looped. Okay, you can stop that now. You really love this pattern, don't you?
It just chose it. Chose the first one in the folder.
Did you choose it or did it choose you?
It must have chosen me. It sounds so good.
Oh, it's so good, isn't it? Even at 130 BPM. All right. So let's just say you wanted to clone that and make a variation. If you go to where it says pattern 1 and right click, and then there should be a clone option. Yep, clone. That will then basically exactly duplicate. It won't duplicate the instrument, it will duplicate the MIDI. So you're now free to click on pattern 2, left click on pattern 2, and double click it, sorry, to bring up the piano roll. Now you can make changes, edits to this MIDI pattern without it affecting pattern 1. What I would definitely suggest doing is renaming your patterns so they don't just all end up pattern 1, pattern 2. So if you right click the pattern, and then there should be a rename and color option to rename and color. And now you can say, let's just say this is kick, and then press return, and that will save. Or you can click the plus, yeah. But now if you clone it, it will say now say kick 1. Or sorry, kick 2 in this instance. So it kind of just clones your naming instances as well. Any questions about that, mate?
No, that's fine.
Okay, cool. But obviously, let's just say you wanted to create a brand new pattern that's not using that instrument and sits completely separately, right? You would still want to clone it. So if you click where it says kick #2, okay, now you go into the MIDI. So double click the piano roll on the left. That's it. Now Control A and then delete to delete the MIDI. And now if you could scroll back over to the left to your channel rack, I want you to pick a new sound that's going to go into, let's go for the 808 clap or hi-hat, one of the ones that's already in there. So if you do that on like the every second beat for a clap, and now you can go and paste that into the arrangement.
How do I do that?
Oh, just drag it. You can drag that.
Drag what this?
Yeah, drag that. There you go, and that is now your clap. So now if you want to just you can paste more of those because you're selected the paint tool. So if you want to just kind of just hit a few more on the first beat, that's it. There we go. Drag that in, and there's your first loop. How does it feel to have your first loop?
Yeah, it's all good. I definitely like that MIDI. It's definitely a start of a belter there.
Right. Okay, so we've gone through the ribbon and toolbar, piano roll, and the one thing we've not covered on the mixer is how to add effects to a track. So you've got your kick on track 1, you've got your clap on track 2. So let's just say this is an 808, and what everyone does to 808s is they distort them. So let's put some distortion on that 808. So if you can click, left click where it says insert 1. Okay, and if you could just make your mixer shorter from the right, if you could just kind of drag it in from the right so we can see it all on the screen. Yeah, brilliant. And push over to the left, right, okay, all the way, go on, there we go. Now, you see where it says slot 1 to 10? This is where you can insert stuff like EQs, compressors, reverbs, delays, all of the kind of third-party FL and third-party VSTs that will make your sound amazing. So if you click slot 1, now this brings up by default the kind of default folder setting that FL has. You haven't installed anything apart from a few instruments, have you? There's no you don't have any Pro Qs or anything on here?
No.
Okay, no, brilliant. Well, luckily enough, Fruity have or ImageLine have put in a distortion folder for you. So if you want to go and pick Fruity Fast Distort, okay. Now, first thing you'll want to do before pressing play and hurting my ears is turning down the mix to about 50%. Okay, and now if you press play, you can just kind of tweak the settings, hear the distortion, hear what changes it does. Just turn everything up to the top. Come on, let's just ruin it.
Yes, a bit of grime.
Right. Stop it for 1 second. you might want to turn that. You might want to stop redlining. So you see the fader at the top of insert 1. What you should do is press play and pull that down so that it's no longer going above like 0 dB. So that anything above 0 is digital clipping, and it's going to sound awful as it does right now.
I mean, it's still terrible, but
I mean, yeah, it's not terrible, but it's not technically. But I mean, there's the whole like headroom argument going on, right? Okay, you're hurting my ears now. Stop it. I mean, let's just do that again. Let's put in some EQ this time. So go back to the slot. Go back to slot 2. You can put it on any slot. It really doesn't matter at this point. And there should be a you want under the filter section, Fruity Parametric EQ 2. And then this is where you get to, you can play with your EQ bands and make the sound amazing. So just a quick overview on this. It's obviously 7 bands. The default setting is the top one is essentially a low shelf. The first one is a low shelf. The last one is high shelf. But if you want to change what these are instead of out bells, if you right click number 1, right click it, go to type. I mean, typically what you would probably want would be a high pass here. So if you select high pass, that then now kind of gives you the opportunity to kind of a standard high pass and maybe just take out some of that low end. So if you want to press play and kind of just tweak where you want that 1 to sit, you want to take out a bit of low end but not too much. That's too much. Come on, it's an 808. Going at 80, yeah? Okay, fair enough. But if you want to kind of also click and hold any of the 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, just click it, left click it and hold it, and move it around, move your mouse around. This will basically change the EQ. It's really handy. It says which frequencies it is on at the moment, but obviously it will affect more than that depending on the Q setting. So if you see see the coloured little semicircles at the bottom right hand corner of the entire plugin. If you let go of thingy, if you see the yeah, those. So these are the top one of those is the frequency. So you can move it up and down, and it will affect the frequency it's affecting. So if you move that up, it will go right. I think if you move it down, it will go left. And the one underneath it is basically the Q. So the Q is basically how much it's affecting of the sound. So if you do it all the way down like that, it will affect a very narrow bandwidth. But if you do it all the way up, it will affect a much bigger bandwidth. So if you move that down now, it will affect, if you go back to number 2, if you move that down now, move it down, go to the right, all the other, okay, right. See, now you see the size of the dip that's creating there. So if you go back to the pink one and you go to the bottom one, if you change that all the way to the bottom, that will give you a really narrow, there we go, really narrow band there. So that's kind of, if you're doing surgical EQ, you want to remove a certain frequency, or if you want to add a certain boost at a certain frequency. All right, next thing we're going to go to is how to add an instrument. I think we should finally get some bass going. So if you want to go to where it says 808 hi-hat and right click, and now hover over replace. So this is basically our instruments. So this is the stuff that we have that makes noise, that generates waveforms. So we're going to choose, let's go for, how about go to 808 kick instead and do this, and we'll put in, so go to 808 kick, replace, and we'll go for bass drum. So this is an internal FL plugin, I believe, and it lets you make your own bass drums. But bear in mind that this hasn't changed the MIDI. So if you click pattern 1 again, the same MIDI's there. It's just being, it's just the signal is different. Instead of it being the 808 sample, it's now going to be this instrument. That sounds better. Right, so yeah, that's basically how you would add or change to an instrument. Now let's just say you didn't want to put an instrument, you wanted to put a sample in there. Okay, now there's two ways you can do this. Using the browser function, you could either go to your samples on the left. So I think if you click, I think Vengeance Sound Pack should work for you. So now click into one, bass drums, click bass drums, and now you can preview them by just clicking on them. I think if you press down will work as well on your keyboard. Yeah, instead of. So now what I want you to do is, first things first, I want you to go to the bass drum, right click it. No, the bass drum, the VST we just put in, the instrument we just put in, right click that, hit replace. And I want you to choose sampler. And then what I want you to do is I want you to drag your chosen kick drum into the sampler channel that we just added. So drag it all the way in. There we go. So now it's removed the VST and you've put in your own sample. So let's hear that one. Bit of hollow for me. Bit too hollow for me.
Even worse.
Okay, but that's one way you can do it. There is another way you can do it. So if you left click the actual number one, that bit, yeah, click that. No, not yeah, that bit. Click it. This brings up essentially the sampler in Fruity Loops. So you see where it says V bass drum 08 and there's a little folder icon. Click the folder. This is another way you can essentially search for your samples. I would 100% recommend using the favorites if you're going to use this to like use to favorite project sample packs. But again, this is just a different way to essentially add in the samples. There's two different ways to do this, and that's the other way. So I mean, I do it this way, but I know a lot of people that will use the browser on the left instead, whereas I literally never have the browser open. What you could also do, if you so desired, if you didn't want to work with MIDI, you can choose to work with audio. So if you want to, you see the waveform at the bottom of the sampler. If you just left click and drag it into the playlist. Yeah, down, anywhere there. So now what this has done, this is, it hasn't deleted the kick and the pattern, the MIDI pattern that you had. So that's still there, that's still going to play if you press play. But what it's basically done is, thanks for that. That's basically now put that kick in as an audio sample separately to the MIDI pattern that you had before. Okay, and as you can see now, the channel rack now only shows you that single audio sample. It doesn't show you the other one. So if you see where it says audio just above the sample, you click that and go to unsorted. This is where we were before, but now if you click it unsorted and go back to audio, this will show you what you've put into the project as audio. Now again, if you go back to the playlist arrangement, you'll see it also says VE bass drum 12. If you click the little key icon, if you scroll to the playlist arrangement, the playlist where you put the MIDI, and now if you see just above the sample where it says VE bass drum on the left, where the patterns used to be, go to one left where it says the little icon for that. That's it. Click that. Now this is your pattern arrangement. So this is all of your MIDI patterns basically. The one in the middle was a sample, so that will show you all of your sampled content. And the one where it's kind of two dots and a line in between shows your automation clips. But we don't have any of those yet. We'll get to those in a bit. So if you wanted to see all your audio samples that you had in your playlist, you just click the audio button. There you go, and then that enables you to basically put your audio into the project as you wish. If you just left click the bass drum, just left click it. And now you should be able to like drag and kind of paste loads if you wanted to just paste loads into the project for me. No, just literally left click and move the mouse. Just left click on the playlist arrangement, sorry. Yeah. Just left click anywhere on the playlist arrangement, just paste loads, go on, do it, go crazy. There you go. Now mute, now if you would see where it says track 1, there's a green button. You click that, track 1. Now this will mute our MIDI for our other kick. Okay, so if you press play, that pattern won't play, but tracks 2 and 3 will play. So let's hear it with your clap and your new kick arrangement. This is going to sound so bad. Okay, stop. Right. one last thing also, this, when you put in audio, it doesn't go, even though it was taken from our channel rack and from an existing instrument, it won't assign it to a mixer track. So as you can see on the channel rack, where the mixer numbers used to be, it just says dash dash dash. So you can assign, you don't forget to basically assign a mixer track to that. Okay, so we've pretty much covered everything. There's only two more things I want to cover with you. So first one is how to send. Do you know what a send is, right, mate?
Nope.
Okay, so let's just say you wanted to send your kick drum to two of your kick drums to the same channel, and you wanted to compress them together. Okay, so currently channels 1 and 5 are kick drums. So if you left click on insert 1, okay, now can you see the little green arrow, the little green kind of cable sticking out at the bottom? So that basically tells you where that channel is sending the sound to. So I want you to go to channel 10, and you see the little arrow at the bottom, right click that arrow, yep, right click it, and I want you to select route to this track only. Okay, now that will basically remove any other routing sources and send only to that track. If you wanted to send that signal to more than one place, then you can do it to another channel, but when you click the arrow, you just select route to this track, not route to this track only. So do that to channel 9, route to this track, and as you can see now, it's sending the audio to 2 different places. Now let's just say you did that by mistake and you only wanted to do it to 1. You should be able to just right click the arrow above the insert for channel 9. You see the little green arrow just above it? Right click that. Oh, sorry, left click it. There you go, and it removes that for you. And now I want you to do the same on channel 5. I want you to send channel 5 to channel 10. You've got to select the channel first, because it's now, I think it's still on channel 1, still selected. So there you go, channel 5 is selected. Channel 10, not just channel 9. Right click. There you go. So now both tracks 1, or mixer tracks 1 and 5 are both sending the audio to track 10. We're going to go through one last thing here, and that's automation. So automation is basically the process of Fruity Loops changing the status of your instruments, or knobs, I guess you could call them for want of a better word, during the track to kind of automate cutoffs or reverb amounts and stuff like that. So let's go back to your unsorted list. So if you could click the channel rack, go to unsorted. I want to do this in a VST because I think it looks cooler. So if you right click the bass drum again, let's get that back out. Replace. And let's put something cool in. Let's put in Toxic Biohazard right at the bottom. It's definitely one of the most kind of underrated synths. Now this is going to the track that this is sending MIDI audio to is actually muted right now. So I want you to re-enable track 1 by left clicking it, the little green thing. And we don't need track 3 now. So if you just click that one. Oh, what did you right click, didn't you?
I did right click.
Okay, so let's hear what sounds Toxic Biohazard is giving us as a default. Okay, that's fine, that'll do. So if you could just change from song mode to pattern mode in the top left. See the very, very top left next to the play button of the whole project. Yeah, top left. There we go.
Pattern mode.
Pattern mode. So this will basically loop the pattern that you have selected instead of playing the bit of the song that you've selected in the playlist. So basically, all it's going to do is loop this MIDI pattern. So what I want you to do is I want you to loop it, and then I want you to go to the cutoff part of the plugin of Toxic Biohazard, and I just want you to kind of just tweak the cutoff. Just to see kind of what kind of sound difference it makes, and if it's going to be a good knob for us to tweak. So press play and just go play with that cutoff. It's at the bottom. It's right at the bottom.
Oh yeah.
Okay, it's making that funny noise because the resonance next to it is turned all the way up. So let's turn the resonance down a bit to about 50%. Okay, and now play with that cut off again. That sounds better, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Right, I want you to leave the put the cut off to 0% all the way down. I want you to press spacebar to stop it. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to create a quick automation clip for the cut off. Now the reason why it's going to be the cut off is basically the last thing that you touch, Fruity remembers the last knob you essentially touch, whether that's in a VST or in a sampler. Like you can do this to the pitch in a sampler as well. You can stretch it real time. But we're going to do it to the cut off, just so the kind of cut off just kind of goes up from nothing into something. So the last knob you touched was the cut off. So now what I want you to do, I want you to go to Tools, which is in the top left, the screen next to Help. And we go to Last Tweaked. And if you see where it says create automation clip. Yeah, click that. And now I want you to close Toxic Biohazard. I want you to close the MIDI pattern that you have. Right, and you see track 4? That is your, so basically what it will always do, it'll always start, if you enable track 4 for me, left click, right? So what it will do, it will always start and end, create a MIDI clip that's the length of the time selected in your track. So if you didn't have a loop enabled, it would still only give you 4 bars here. And it will always do it to the value that it was set at when you left it. So if you press play, you won't hear anything because the cutoff is enabled. Well, not enabled, sorry. So if you could right click anywhere within the cutoff bit for me, and you can move that point around if you want. And then you can, yeah, so those little mini buttons. Okay, what I would stop 1 second, and I would change. You see in the top left of the arrangement, it says step and slide. A bit, if you go down and to your right a bit.
Oh yeah.
So remove slide, unclick slide, and now try and move a point again. Move that point again. See? Now it's not making the clip bigger. It's just moving that one single point. So let's hear it. Press play. Let's hear what the cutoff does. And what I want you to do when you press play, I think you're on MIDI mode at the moment, so you need to change it back to song. And if you could please, there we go. There's your automation working perfectly. If you go back to the unsorted view, you want to see some real magic, go back to unsorted, click Toxic Biohazard, and now press play and watch it move all by itself. Watch that cutoff not move all by itself. Magic or what?
Amazing.
Cool. Right, that is your basics, mate, to be honest. I'm struggling to think of anything else that you would need to get started, unless you have anything else that you want to talk about.
Not at the moment, but I'm sure there'll be an episode 2 for me.
Well, of course, once you've got your basic patterns down and stuff, and you want to take things you feel like you're ready to learn more, go to the next level, then by all means, let's we'll do a part 2. We'll see how Matt's going on with his latest trance banger.
Alright, wicked.
Cool, mate. Looking forward to it. And to all you guys watching on YouTube, thank you very much for tuning in. I hope this has been helpful, and I hope to see you again soon.